My name is Ryan, and I'm doing a video today on a project of mine, which was to build a stereo field recorder. Now, I'd been looking at a field recorder for a little while now to incorporate into my ambient music. And if I go to, any number of manufacturers, there are a lot of great examples, great products out there to do field recordings. I was looking at the Tascam DR05, and while it would have been just easy to go out and buy my own field recorder, I thought, well, what if I tried to build my own? I've been looking for a little project to do for a while now, and I decided to try and do it. So here it is. This is the model RH01 field recorder, stereo field recorder. It's made out of walnut. It is based on Raspberry Pi, and if you don't know what that is, so it's actually a Pi Zero. So the Pi Zero is a very small computer that fits inside this box, and you can attach a number of peripherals to it, and you can program it to do pretty much whatever you want. There's a lot of people that use these projects to make sort of like temperature measurement devices, altitude measurement, weather balloons, and people are using them for synthesizers, all sorts of custom DIY projects. And this is just one of a number of versions that they sell. This is the smallest one. Kind of like the Teensy computer. If you don't know what that is, that's another kind of very small computer. So that was the challenge, and it took probably a week to do some research on this and figure out all the components that I think I would need, and this is the result here. So right now it's powered on, and I'm actually recording audio simultaneously on this, so I'm just going to switch over to the audio from the field recorder, and there we go. So I'm using a Audio Technica Pro 24 stereo condenser microphone. This one's active, so it has a little on and off switch. There's a little LR44 battery in there to power it, and that's running through a Behringer USB audio device. This particular device only allows for audio in, there's no audio out. But this was the smallest sound card I could find that would work on this device, trying to keep it portable. Because that was another factor in this, is it had to be something that was battery operated, that could take on the road and do field recordings everywhere. So for parts on this, I'll just go to show you a number of the things I decided to use for this device. So for the battery, that was a decision to find a battery that could actually, fit in a case like this, but added enough power to get me through several hours of recording. So this is the, I think it's called a Sinoli portable power bank. It says it's 10,000 milliamps, but it's actually, when you open it up, it's closer to 9,000. But the form factor fit. Just little adapters in here, like this little 5-inch right angle micro USB. Here's the sound card that ended up working with this. It's the Behringer 2 stereo. It uses a quarter line, and I suppose you could plug that into any device you want. I've got some adapters to connect this to my stereo microphone. Then we've got I've got a bunch of these switches. This is what it was used to power on the device.
And then we've got touchscreen LCD. This is designed for the Raspberry Pi, so it connects right to the board, and it's a touchscreen, so you can open software on it and type in commands and all that sort of fun stuff. And that's pretty much it. So without further ado, the rest of this video is basically going to be the process of designing and manufacturing the RH01 field recorder. Okay, so the design process was done in Fusion 360. So this is a program that you can model pretty much anything you want in there, and then create a G-code file, which is used for the CNC manufacturing process. I got a little CNC machine in the garage to carve out these things, and for this particular project I found a nice piece of walnut, and basically, so this is the stock that was used, and I didn't need to use all of the stock. I ended up just using about a third of it, and this is the basic form factor for the case. So here's the bottom where the USB ports are, and then the cover was basically some of the spare walnut that was left over, and just milling out and leaving a 6mm sheet that would form the cover. The window for the LCD screen was actually carved out manually, and was done just on the CNC machine without any kind of software programming. I've started planing the faceplate. Now I don't have a wood shop with a planer and a bunch of fancy gear, so I'm doing this the slowest way possible and using a little CNC machine here. And so this is carving out the faceplate, and this is going to go down to a depth of 6mm. It's going to leave me with a 6mm faceplate. And so this is going to take probably about 4 hours using a 3mm bit, and it's literally just going back and forth and planing, looks like a millimeter at a time, and that's going to leave me with a nice, perfectly planed faceplate. So I'm back at the CNC mill. I just finished carving out the front panel for the screen, and I'm just trying to see how it fits. It looks like it's a pretty good fit. Got to sand that paint off and stuff, and I've got some hardware coming so that I can fasten this to the case. There's our USB slot, and the screen is going to be right about there. And so there's a slight gap. It didn't come out as close as I wanted. I was doing this manually, and I do have a little bit of a gap in here, but I think I can work with that. I'll figure out how I'm gonna kind of, like, maybe I'll just kind of create a little bit of a bezel around there to fasten it in. This screen does not have any mounting hardware, and it's just gonna kind of like, well, once the PCB is fastened to the back of the case, it'll be a little more solid, but there is a little flex in it, and I'll just have to figure out what I can do to kind of seal this gap around the edges. I don't have any more walnut, unfortunately, so I can't cut another one of these, and I don't really want to because this milling job took 5.5 hours, so not really keen to do that over again, but it looks like a pretty good fit. Next job is to figure out if the battery is going to fit. So I carved out or I milled out a little extra space at the bottom here so that the battery can sit lower and the faceplate can mount without any issues. Looks like I lost a mount there. I'll have to figure out where that went. And then the next step is to just make sure everything's going to fit in there, and I have to carve out a port on the side for the charging port. And then once everything fits in there okay, the next job is to probably kind of finish it. It's going to need some sanding. I got to get rid of all this paint, and then we should be good to go. And I've got to mount the power switch, and I did manage to find an LED that'll work to show us when it's in operation and when it's charging. So I'll be back. I've been trying to figure out the case for this. This is what this is it's going to be a homebrew field recorder, and it's going to be based on Raspberry Pi, Pi Zero. And so what I've got here, this is the Pi Zero, and it's got Raspbian installed on it. And at the moment, I'm just going to be using a program called Audacity in that software. And eventually, I'm going to hopefully try and figure out how to program a custom field recording program. But for now, that's what it's going to have to be. I just put some little standoffs on here to lift it up, and then it has a little touchscreen LCD. There's the model number. This was I think $20 on eBay. And so here's the case. I used my CNC mill to carve out the cavity here. And this is the top and this is the bottom where the USB ports are going to be located. And so the screen is going to be located at the top, and this is a touch screen. I'm going to mount it probably about here. At the moment, my CNC is milling a cover for this, also made out of walnut. And I just got a battery. It was really hard to find a battery that was going to be able to fit in this case. A lot of them were too big. But I did find this on Amazon for about $20. And this is a 10,000 milliamp battery. But it's still a little bit big. So I'm going to try and take this apart and see if I can reduce the size a little bit and mount it inside the case. And then I don't think, oh, here's the USB ports. So the USB ports are going to sit here. This is just another typical USB hub. I took the case off in order to get it to fit in here. And I milled a port at the bottom. And I'm going to have to mount this securely on the bottom. And then the battery is going to sit in here. And then the battery will connect to the Raspberry Pi through a USB port to the micro USB, which is just on the bottom here. And then the other port is just for the USB interface. So I've got a couple of adapters coming so that I can actually convert this standard USB to micro. And then to charge the device, it goes to a micro USB in. And so I'm going to have to cut another hole on the side of the unit so that I can plug in a USB power source to recharge the battery. So I'll come back after I've gotten the case off this and we'll see how it works. Okay, so here's the inside of the battery. It looks like it should be relatively straightforward to get this out. I do have to take off the PCB here and figure out how that's going to go inside my case. So I'm just going to come back when I've got this all apart. Okay, so I have I've taken the battery out, and it's a pretty good fit. Here's the PCB, and so the charging port's in the middle here, and I've got a little USB, a right-angled micro USB to female USB to mount in the side here to charge it, and then we've got one charging port here which we'll use just a standard USB to micro cable to go from the battery into the Raspberry Pi. There is a switch on this device, and it was on the corner here. So there's a little micro switch here, which is to turn on and off the device. Now, to turn this on when the case is on, I may have to modify this and create a switch that's located on the top of the device. So the other issue is, if you look at this from the side, those batteries are just slightly higher than the case. So I am going to have to mill out a little bit more on the bottom of this case to make these fit flush. Okay, so I have the switch mounted here onto a couple of the micro switch terminals, and we'll just see if it works. So if I push this, it should just turn on, and there it goes. It's a little bit intermittent, and that might be because I don't have a very good connection here. Alright, I got the PCB mounted. My countersunk screws came in today, so it's actually nice and flush with the back there. So it's looking really good. The USB charging port is going to sit right next to that PCB. And this will connect to the battery once it's installed. Alright, so today I've been working on the software side of things. One issue I've been having is how do I get files from this device to other machines, and I'm going to keep it really simple and just use a USB thumb drive that connects to one of the ports on the bottom. I could do a file sharing system on here, but I'd rather just use this because it's quick and easy. The other thing is, up till this point I've had to use a wireless keyboard and mouse, and I do not want to have to take this everywhere I go just so that I can do a field reporting. I want it to be portable. So luckily Raspberry Pi comes with a on-screen keyboard which you can launch, and I've got it open here on the top. And so what I need to do is, when I'm finished a recording, and I'm using Audacity for this, just go into the software and click Save Project, or whatever I'm doing if I'm exporting the audio, and just put in a file name here. I'll just use a number 2 and then hit enter, and there we go. And so that's saved, and then I can take that from this device and put it anywhere I need to go. Now that that's all finished, the next issue I want to resolve is where to put the screws for the mounting the faceplate. I think I'm going to go with 2 on the bottom, 2 in the middle, and 2 on the top. Probably M3 countersunk so that it leaves the face nice and flush. And I'll also have to mount the PCB for the Raspberry Pi to the back, and I'm gonna have to figure out how to line up those holes and center everything so that it's nice and symmetrical. I'll be back once I've had a look at that, and I've also got to carve in a port for the USB charging device. I'm now at the final stage before assembly. I've got the laser engraver set up and I've been testing out just the quality, and pretty happy with the results here. Tried a few different times. With this, there's a particular focus. You can change the focus of the laser here, and depending on how far your material is away, if it's not in focus, you get a very blurry etching. And as well, there's a lot of settings in the software that determine how clear the fonts are going to be. So I'm pretty happy with this. This is the result here. So this one's this one's going to be serial number 1. I don't even know if I'm going to be making any more of these, but I thought I'd put it on there. And I've got the machine all queued up here. So this is the bottom corner where the laser will start from, and then it'll move towards the center of the back to etch this in. So let's just hit run here and we'll see what we get. So the blue laser is a little hard on the eyes, but I have these goggles here that came with the laser, and if you put these over top of your eyes, it takes away a lot of the harsh light and you can get a clear picture of what you're etching. So I'll be back when this is finished. Okay, so that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed the process of designing and building the RH01 stereo field recorder. It was a very interesting and enjoyable experience to actually put this together, and very gratifying when it all actually worked. I'll be taking this on the road to make some field recordings over the next few months. Probably use those on an upcoming album. Yeah. If you're interested in this sort of thing and like the video, please give it a thumbs up and a subscribe. I'll probably be doing some more projects like this over the next few months. But for now, just want to Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again soon.